We are born into a conditioned world that tells us we are not okay.
Yeah.
That specifically women. That our body is to be a certain shape, and that shape kind of evolves depending on the trends. We are conditioned every day in the media around those messages and manipulated by it. And it's a practice to remember that that's all BS.
So we're here today with Sadie Lincoln, my great friend and owner and founder of Barre3. Mm-hmm. And I think we've known each other for
11 years.
Oh, 11 years.
Maybe a little, 11 years. Yeah.
She's like 11 years and 6 days.
And 16 hours and 12 minutes.
A long time.
Yes.
And we love to talk about health. And I think it's evolved a lot for both of us over time. Mm-hmm. I wanted to hear from you a little bit about what's changed for you in the past. It's been so much more than 11 years for you, though, you know?
Yeah. Well, first, I think we should tell our origin story of friendship.
Please tell the origin story.
I can't remember our mutual friend Teal.
Yes.
I had just started Barre3.
Yes.
And Barre3, for those of you listening that don't know, it's an exercise concept that I'm the co-founder of. My husband and I are co-founders. And we have studios now all over the place. But my very first concept was upstairs from Wild Oats.
Yes, upstairs of Whole Foods.
Yeah, it's now Whole Foods.
Yes. And
I rented this little teeny studio, and Teal and some of her friends came to my very first class, and you came to one of those classes, right?
Yes, pregnant.
No, were you pregnant?
Yes, I was pregnant, just newly pregnant.
Okay.
And as your first year grew, I grew.
You grew.
Yes.
And then I thought I had tendonitis in my knee, and my doctor just kept prescribing Advil. And he's like, I think he said something like, you can have like 8 a day or something. You have tendonitis. It's just, that's what you have. And Teal again said, I really think you should go to my friend Sarah. And I went in.
For acupuncture.
And in one treatment, you cured my knee.
Which doesn't happen all the time. Right?
Hold on.
But it can happen,
Yeah, totally.
Right? Your body was right on the edge.
It was really amazing.
Yeah.
And also, you were really amazing. And in my head, I was so thankful for my knee, but I was also like, she's going to be my friend. She's going to be my friend.
Yes, it's so true. I mean, I think I was the first person in your first class. I think there was 4 of us. Mm-hmm. And you've even screenshotted me the list, the sign-in list.
Oh, okay. So you really were.
Yes.
Oh,
of the
so
very,
awesome.
very first class.
Yeah.
Yep. And we've raised our kids together and been on lots of fun vacations and have just tried to find balance within it. And
yeah.
Grown up together.
Yeah. We have grown up together.
Oh,
it's
big
true.
time. It's been quite a decade. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of change for both of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of change.
You're not the same person. I'm not the same person. I guess nobody's the same person. You're not the same person.
No.
I feel like it's an interesting, like, not the same person. I am 47 years old, and I feel like I'm more myself than I've ever been.
Yeah.
So it's, instead of not being the same person, I'm remembering who I really am right now.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's been my story over the last decade, and getting lost a little bit, being an entrepreneur, the face of a fitness company, really successful company. We've gone from one studio, that little rental, all the way to 155 studios now. We have online subscriptions in 98 countries. On paper, we're huge, right? And we're really a well-known brand. It's been super exciting, but my story behind that, as you well know intimately, has been really hard.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is for me still to this day, and it must be so strange for my children to see me as a public figure, the face of a fitness company. And there was an era there when we were growing rapidly where producers in LA, like magazines, all kinds of different people were contacting me to help me market Barre3. DVDs that we sold at Target, a book that I wrote that I don't sell anymore because I'll tell you that why in a moment. I mean, I did this ridiculous video out and just craziness. And the producers I worked with were coaching me on how to be a fitness celebrity. And, I have one memory of being in this woman's house who's the producer. She's like the producer for all the big celebrities. The ones, if you think of big celebrities, like the big ones, right? And Barre3 from the very beginning has been about, like, one of our mantras that we always say is honor your truth and make it your own. And we're exercising not to be attached to an outcome, but to be alive and present in your body as it is. And so that was my philosophy and who I am as a human being and what I wanted to do for the fitness industry. And I found myself in LA in her living room because we were going over a script. It was a voiceover workout thing I did with her. And she brought out 2 big bins of clothing, and right in front of her, she had me try on clothes for the video. Without like going into a dressing room, she was sitting on the couch. And I literally have post-traumatic stress syndrome when I try on exercise clothes to this day, because she was crafting a workout outfit that hid all my problem areas over and over again. Like the armpit, skin, my belly, like making sure the pants came up and sucked me in, more padding, less padding, like, made me look taller. Oh, that one chops you up. And she just had me try on outfit after outfit.
Just chopping you down.
Then she said, you need to get a little more tan, but not too tan, lose a little bit of weight. She put me on this plan. Then I went through the script I'd written, which was all about like talking about inherent strength and how good it feels to move. And she had me rewrite the script. So every exercise I did was attached to an outcome. So for example, pressure heals deeply to the floor. So when you sit back, you get that nice lifted rear that we all want for summer. Draw your waist in so you have strong, sleek, sexy abs. Teeny tiny. I remember her saying, you too can have teeny tiny arms. Like, just ridiculous.
You were like, this is not necessarily honoring my truth.
Oh, it was so opposite. But then my marketing brain was, but this is our big break.
Yeah.
We're going to be in Target. We are going to be all over the media. This is going to feed, at the time I just started franchising, all my franchisees who have put their life savings into our company. And I fell into that trap of, this is how you market fitness. And I need to be the face of it. Like, I need to take one for the team is sort of what I thought. In my head, it was so demoralizing.
What did you do?
Well, that night I cried so hard. I woke up and I could barely open my eyes. Did I call you?
Remember.
And I had to do voiceover the next day, and I was a mess. But I fought back. I did. I brought her a new script. So I stayed up all night. I wrote a new script. And it was more me. I caved a little bit, but it was more me. And she kind of had to allow it because I showed up to the voiceover studio and I'm like, here I am. Let's do this. With my script. Yeah, let's do this. And then there's a little era on Barre3 where I was so influenced by that. I hired someone to do our makeup and our hair and a stylist. And I used some of that language in our online workouts. And what was so beautiful is our clients checked us at the door. They were jumping on the comment board saying things like, oh, Sadie, we like you so much better natural, like lose the bronzer. Or, please don't tell me to do this to be skinny. I'm doing Barre3 because you've always told me how strong I already am. That's why I'm doing this class. And that moment is when I realized I was onto something, that it wasn't just me, that the masses feel the same way I do, demoralized by that kind of marketing, and that we can do so much better.
Yeah, what you say, I think there's been so much influence for you, right? And push-pull. And every time they pull you that way, it like crumbles you and brings you to your knees. And then you have to pick yourself back up and walk in your truth again. And I think what you said about being 47 and feeling more like yourself than ever before is like, that's all kind of in the rearview mirror for you. And you are willing to walk forward and not apologize and not get caught up in it.
Yeah. Building confidence has been a huge part of my journey. Being the face of a company, being the boss, being the CEO.
Yeah.
and trusting my inner voice, truly listening to it. And I've said that for 11 years. That's what we've always been about. But to actually proceed with purpose in that way is a daily practice, for me. And to not be swayed. One thing I've learned about myself is I want to be beloved. I want everyone to love me. And I want them to think I'm really awesome and successful. And that's why I'm lovable. And learning that psychology about myself has been really healthy for me, because if I am attached to success as belonging and people liking me, then I will go and do stuff at Target and those crazy. By the way, I love Target.
Yeah. It's just an example. It's a great example.
We all need Target once in a while.
Case they're listening.
Yeah.
And they want to do a really mindful, empowered workout.
Project.
Yeah. We don't sell DVDs anymore, though, do we?
No.
So that wouldn't work anyways.
Yeah.
But.
I feel like that's a really common story for people, and especially women who are owning businesses or doing anything in the health industry. Finding confidence and being able to honor their truth and be true to their voice. That is a hard thing to do. And that story that you told in different versions, we hear it so many times.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so helpful to hear that so that people can understand, like, they're not alone in feeling that way. And also, we do have to keep rebuilding ourselves and building that confidence and using our voices so that things can
We've all been in the dressing room at Nordstrom's, right? Trying on bathing suits. And we already have the inner critic so loud.
Yes.
She was a reflection of my inner critic.
Yeah.
She was one of my greatest teachers, because I learned from that experience that is not true. That is not okay. It's not okay, and it's not true.
Yeah.
And when I hear my own inner critic doing that, I say, oh, there she is again.
Yeah.
Like I kind of imagine her, right?
Yeah.
That is not okay, and that is not true.
And I don't choose that. I
do
don't choose
not
to
choose
talk to
that.
myself that way.
Yeah.
I don't choose to think about myself that way. I choose this other way that makes me feel good and fills me up and makes me proud of who I am. Yeah.
It's such a talked about subject, and yet I still come back to it over and over again, like an aha, that we are born into a conditioned world that tells us we are not okay.
Yeah.
That specifically women, that our body is to be a certain shape, and that shape kind of evolves depending on the trends.
The
To
decade.
be worthy, right. To be worthy, to be sexy, to be attractive, to be successful, to be seen, to belong. We are conditioned every day in the media around those messages and manipulated by it. And it's a practice to remember that that's all BS, and that our bodies are all freaking gorgeous. And
And a miracle.
And a miracle. And this doesn't matter anyways.
Yes.
I mean, how we present ourselves inside out is truly what defines us as human beings and allows us to live a rich, whole life.
I think that can be a little bit for people, as we've all had our inner critic and, gone down this path that's not been ideal, and we're kind of like trying to right the ship. I think that it can be like learning a new sport, or like you said in one of your podcasts, like practicing the violin.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's brand new to like really love your body. One of the things that I have mentioned to Sadie is that in her Barre3 classes, I stand in front of the mirror and do the exercises. And this wasn't always true. It's new for me. I really focus on telling myself that I am beautiful and that I am strong and I love this body. And then I do it for everybody else in the room too. I look at people and I'm like, you are beautiful, you are strong, you are loved. And it changes how I walk out of that exercise class so much. It adds so much to it to really be in this headspace of like self-love and love for everybody else.
Yeah.
These bodies
I think
are a
that's
gift.
really important, again, specifically for women, to say out loud often to other women what you see in them. And I totally believe that just that intention quietly in class lifts the entire energy of the room.
Yeah.
And I love that story when you shared that. That's everything to me, because that's what I believe we've built as a company, is a group. People know when they come into the group exercise room at Barre3 that it's a room of support and honesty. Like you can be your honest self there and you'll be supported by everybody else in the room. And there's truly that energy. That's the thing where I'm the most proud of. And I think we can say that out loud more. Just when you see a woman who's doing something great, always acknowledging it, acknowledging it, and noticing when we're behind closed doors talking about other women in a negative way.
And we don't often do that because there's so much conditioning of, you know, you have to get ahead, you have to win, you have to be the best, and your fellow women are then your competition. And rather than seeing their heart or their spirit, you see what you need to overcome. And I just think about what you were just saying. You're looking at their hearts and their spirits. You're seeing that rather than just their bodies.
Right.
And
it's so much more.
It's so helpful to think about it that way.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah. In our friendship circle, something that you have repeatedly always said, and I feel like you've really ingrained it in me, is like, we women are here to support each other. We are here to lift each other up, and we are not here to tear each other down. And I feel like, you know, you talk about all the time, and you have a very unique experience around community and circle, and something that we talk about in Surviving to Thriving. Connection is so important, and connection with other people. Where do you think you got that? Like, we are here to lift you up, because everybody does not inherently have that.
Yeah, or maybe we do inherently have that, but we forget to practice it. Yeah. I had this aha recently. I've done a lot of research on lonely, because lonely is now evidence-based, taking us down faster than smoking is.
Yes.
It is connection.
It's like a sickness.
It is a sickness.
Yeah.
And it is as much it is more of a predictor of our longevity as smoking is now. And so we know that connection, true connection, and a sense of belonging and community is foundational to our health and well-being. And one thing we've always done at Barre3, for example, is we have a mantra: fight lonely. Like, what goes on in the lobby is more important than what actually the sumo squats that you do in the studio room. How we connect, how we see each other is healthy. And that's how we all grow and thrive. I was raised, my mom and her best friends met in the late 60s counterculture time, and they dropped out of mainstream. They ended up all becoming single moms for one reason or another. And they decided to raise us kids together. And so single moms, kids, and we had a practice of sitting in circle. That is something that I grew up with. It's my normal. And it wasn't until recent years that I realized what a gift that was, because what we did in circle, often it was around dream analysis, because that's what my mom and I call them my aunties shared in common, was Carl Jung, psychology and dream analysis. So we'd go around and someone would share a dream, and then that dream was an entry point into self-awareness. And really what it was, circle was a practice of being seen and heard. And it wasn't always your best self. You could be like going through like a breakup, or feeling like crap, or didn't do well on the test, didn't make the team. You know, it wasn't always the great stuff. But even in moments of darkness and sadness, we were equally seen and supported as kids. And so were the aunties. So I grew up with that amazing, and the fact that they weren't related to me, but they gave me that unconditional love and sense of, you belong here, you belong here, you belong here. I brought that into my life and wherever I go. And we've built Barre3 around sitting in a circle, everybody being seen and heard. I mean, there's so many themes throughout not only the workout, but how we manage our teams, how we grow our company. And then into my social circles, because what I realized is I am so effing lonely. At the center of my success, with all these people around me, I am lonely.
Because you're on an island at the top of your company.
Yeah, it's crazy how when you look like you're the most successful you've ever been and you have people all around you adoring you, quote unquote, you can feel so lonely because it's not truly connected. And I realized, wow, I need to make it a practice to sit in circle. So I developed different kinds of circle. We have leadership circle at my company now, where, for example, we'll discuss one area that we fumbled or failed at and what we learned from it. And that's really great leadership practice anyways, because in failure is innovation. But it's a way to create safe space and to connect as a team. That's even more important to me. And my friendship circles, we sit in circle, and, share, like sometimes when something hard has happened. Well, I'm about to do this for my neighbor. We're going to gather and do a support circle for her in our neighborhood because she's going through a really hard time. And I've taken it on the road. We do it with retreats because I realize we all sit in circle all the time, like around the dining room table, in a hot tub. Like think about all the times you're in circle around the kitchen island. You can make those moments meaningful by asking a question and listening.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
And people love it.
They love it.
It makes a really big difference to be sharing on a similar concept and really hear where people are at in their lives.
How many dinner parties have you gone to and left feeling depleted? Everybody was shouting over each other.
You talk about that all the time.
I do. Yeah.
But isn't that the premise of all of it? Like, you just want to be seen and heard. I feel like that's the foundation of every argument, the foundation of every beautiful conversation that you have. Am I seen? Am I being heard?
Can I speak my truth?
Yeah.
Is it meaningful?
And
are
is
we
it being
talking
honored?
about something meaningful?
Yeah.
I think that is what my gripe about sometimes being with people is that it's not a meaningful conversation, which I, don't do that very often because I have cultivated, relationships that feel close and easy and we can go there. And
I mean, my wife is like, I don't want to have a dinner party bigger than 6 people. It's
Yeah.
too many people. I don't have a voice. I can't hear anybody, and I think that that's so true for actually so many more people than they even know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a self-proclaimed extrovert and I still resonate with that.
yeah.
It's so true.
I think we're all just longing for it. And with it doesn't have to be a deep conversation too, but I do think a little bit of a guided conversation in group is needed. Because otherwise, what my experience is, it turns into like old patterns of, and honestly, like I've noticed like talking about how bad the teachers are at school or, oh, I'm so fat, or, it's a lot of kind of like my husband, blah, blah, blah.
That's a good point.
There's this negativity that starts to spiral, or politics, or, there's so much stuff swirling right now that's so hard. And to just level up and, I'll just redirect a conversation like, hey, I'd love to hear around the table, what's the last book you read and why you loved it? Something that's just like,
You're so good at that.
lifts you up. And
Yeah.
I mean, 9 times out of 10, people were like, wow, that was really amazing dinner.
That was better.
That's great.
Yeah. What did you say over Christmas? You said, tell me what you're most proud of over the last year. And everybody went around the table and said that. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is leveling up,
Yeah.
because you don't want to be in the mud with those conversations that just lower the energy.
And one-on-one, like Sarah, your gift is so one-on-one too.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be in a group, but you always pull out. I know, like you're on speed dial for me because I know if I call you, we're not gonna small talk. You're not. No, how are you? No, really.
It's true.
How are you?
It's true. Yeah.
And that kind of connection is just as important as the group.
Yes, yes. And for me, it's the most rewarding connection, and that will always be the case just because of who I am. And
Yeah.
so it's about, but then it's been really good for me to push myself to be able to open up in a group and to figure out how to find meaning in a group. And that's something that I've had to work on, as strange as it sounds, but I really am a one-on-one person. And so balance and health for me is like really having this experience in a group and being able to be open to lots of people and be seen by lots of people.
And for me, it's going deeper one-on-one with friends.
Yep.
Being more vulnerable with, I have very few, very close friends. And my goal this year is to develop more relationships one-on-one. Let people in a little more, which is hard for me to do for some reason. So yeah. Balance.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think we kind of all think we're the same a little bit. You like people see you, and for you to say that, they're like, really? There's no, how is that even possible? But we're all so different. We're all coming from totally different places. And I think that remembering that people have different, basic foundations of the landscape of their history and how they were raised, and then just who they are in general, I think is really important to remember. We're all coming from very different places.
Do you guys, I know we've talked about it. Do you do any strength finder tests? Have you like the Enneagram or like
I've heard you two talk about the Enneagram. Trust me. I know. I've gone down that
so many
wormhole with
good
you two.
ones. Yeah.
I don't know my Enneagram.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't. We don't. We've been over this.
Well, I think I do.
But
But there's so many,
yes.
like DISC, there's
Yes.
so many strength finders. Hogan
Yes.
is one Chris and I just did that's more like business oriented. It's actually incredible. Part of it was working with a behavioral psychologist and really diving into who I am versus who Chris is my husband and co-founder, who he is as a leader, and that awareness.
so helpful.
Oh my gosh, we
Yeah.
are not all the same.
No, it's
And
such
as
an
partners.
aha.
Yeah, totally.
As partners now, you're a peacemaker. Like I always wanted him to stand up for me. I wanted him to be like an advocate for me. And that is not who he is. He's a peacemaker. He doesn't like conflict.
Yeah.
And that's also why we're still married.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of respect has been built for me, becoming more self-aware around that idea that not everybody is like me, which of course that sounds like, why would I ever think that in the first place? But it's so true.
Because we're in our heads a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking a lot about, well, both of you were talking a lot about what health used to look like for you. And especially when you first started Barre3, what is it looking like now in this stage of your life, in this stage of your company, in this stage of your community?
Yeah, I think health for me is the first word that pops into my head is honest. One of my dear friends and mindfulness teachers says, his name's Don Dapani, Dandapani. He says, whatever it is you practice, you become. And, I realized through so much of my struggle running a company, I was practicing being distracted, and I became really good at being distracted, for example. And there's unconscious practices we do, and we become those things. And to have an intentional practice around what I want to become, right?
Yeah.
Who I am. And that takes a practice of being honest and taking a moment to look inside and realize, what do I really need right now? And let go of the formulas and all the things I'm supposed to be doing to be healthy, and have a self-reflection practice of where my energy is and what I really need. Do I need to push myself today to my edge? Am I playing it too safe? Do I need to go into brave space and challenge myself, go on a trail run, or do I need to be okay binge watching Cheer on Netflix? Yes, I do.
Yes, because that's a really great show. So yes, you do.
And I did. And it felt so good to just let myself do that.
Yeah, that's health.
It's health. And to match, let go of shame, be honest, and then evolve a practice around that. When I'm in a group exercise environment, group exercise, specifically Barre3, I am on stage a little bit because most people know who I am in those moments. And I have to work on that harder than ever. Like, just you're not on stage, Sadie. Just, do what you need to do in this class to match what you really need.
Yeah.
You don't have to do step taps perfectly. You don't need to balance Warrior 3. I do know that there's an energy of people looking at me. It's just a natural thing because they're excited I'm in the room because I helped create it with them. But it's like it's even harder practice to be super honest and be in child's pose while everybody else is doing sumo squats.
Yeah.
Honesty is big for me.
That's great.
And what about balance? Let's talk about balance a little bit, because you said something about health and balance. And that is something that people really strive for, but a lot of people can't describe what that looks like for them or what it even means.
Yeah.
And I think especially for women, this is a big question because they wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And so for somebody who's a business owner and a mom and somebody who's in the fitness industry, what does balance look like for you now as opposed to maybe what it used to look like?
Such a good question. And one, you should hear me and my team talk about this. We have talked about this for 11 years straight. And here's what we came to, and we were all like, yes. So first of all, the 3 in Barre3, the reason Chris and I chose that is it's a symbol of balance, like a tripod. So it has been our North Star. And then we're struggling with it because what we realized is balance, the idea of balance is imagined.
Yeah.
It's in the future, and we're never really going to get there, Like,
it's a thought.
yeah, it's It's an outcome. And so rather than being attached to becoming balanced, I've reframed it. My practice is recognizing imbalances without shame or judgment. Honestly, again, the word honest, like, oh, yeah, I feel imbalanced, or I need this time, whatever it is, just recognize the imbalance. It could be physical. And then honoring it, like, oh, my shoulder is off today. And then working towards a more balanced state. Oh, my shoulder's off today. I'm going to remember that and not do plank, even though I can, but it's probably going to create my shoulders telling
More
me
imbalance.
something. Right. So I'm going to do plank at the ballet bar today, even though my everything in me wants to do it on the floor.
Yeah.
It's more exciting. It's more energetic. I feel more burn. So recognizing imbalances without shame and judgment and working towards a more balanced state is what I focus on versus being attached to a mom who has it all, for example, or an executive who gets up early in the morning and does the trail run and then does yoga and then feeds her kid a perfect breakfast and then joins PTA and then runs a company and dominates the world. Like, no, never.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Ever. Right?
I think you do a good job of, I think that's one of your native geniuses is, saying, oh, well, we just exercise, so we should, have a beer on the beach now. Or, oh, we had a couple beers on the beach. We should probably go like paddleboard in those huge waves. Or the kids have been eating so healthy. Let's, they can just, whatever they want. It's fine. And I think that that's something that's so awesome about you is that you always are reflecting on what just was and then how to balance that out.
Yes, and I would just, a nuance with that is it's a little different for me now. Like, it's more honestly about what do I need right now? A couple beers. I'm going to have a couple beers.
Yeah.
And then 3 hours later, what do I need right now? I need to go paddleboarding. It's gorgeous. Let's go paddleboarding. Not because I drank the beer.
Right.
It's truly.
yeah.
Like,
Practice of presence.
yeah, it's
Yes.
a practice of presence because I think when we tie exercise to because I did that thing, we're tying exercise to shame or judgment versus like moving joyful and enjoying nature. It's a practice. I mean, there are times where I'm like, ugh, I feel so gross. We just, partied way too hard last night. Let's just drink green juice all day and like try to breathe, right? I mean, there are moments like that where I kind of go into that, but more often than not, I've shed that story.
Yeah, I think that's what I meant. Like you tune into what you need, what people around you need, because that's like the next natural thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, people are doing that with food. They do that with exercise and movement. They do it with any type of habit, really, is, if XYZ, then this outcome needs to happen.
Right.
And so there's that problematic little circular spiral going on again and again.
Yeah. My friend Wade, was sharing with me this study that was done on high performers, us, and probably most of your listeners, that high performers are driven to get to an outcome.
Yes.
Right? We're goal oriented. We see something in the future and we want to get after it. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, let's say you're an athlete and you want to like win the marathon.
Yeah.
Then that's great to have that goal because that's going to help you with your training schedule and your regimen, right? There's nothing wrong necessarily with the goal. But what we tend to do as high performers is we measure our worth in the present moment based on the gap between where we are right now and the goal.
Yes.
I'm not there yet. I'm
Yes.
not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. There's this attachment in our brains to the outcome. And there's shame in that because we're not there yet. And so,
And even when we get there,
oh my gosh, yeah.
you don't feel better. It's been studied, right? Mm-hmm. And that's
Yeah,
why.
because you're so attached to it. And then you get there and you're like, this is
This
supposed to be
is it?
happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why the mindfulness and the everyday self-love and just knowing that everything that you're doing is worth it and that's who you are today, I think is so helpful. And that's how we have to live in order to be healthy in our mind and body.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so good to, like I said, have friends that reflect that in you all the time, which you do for me all the time. And I know you both do this in your practice as well. is just reflecting back what you see in people. That's such a gift.
Yeah.
Because it reminds people that you get to touch. Oh, I'm good right now. I'm seen right now. Like everything's okay right now.
Yeah.
And just going back to that idea of just paying that idea forward, it's a personal practice, but it's also a practice we can give out in the world over and over and over again.
Yeah. So one of our missions, our main mission at OptimizeYou is to help move people towards better health every day. So if we were to say, what's your practice of moving towards better health every day? What would you offer up for that in terms of yourself and this coming year and even maybe just this day? What comes up for you when you think about just pursuing that or even just walking that path?
Doing the homework first to figure out, I do it every year where I think about what do I want to shed? What do I want to truly let go of?
Yeah.
And I burn that idea. Like I'll write it out and I burn it in a fire. And what do I want to cultivate to be healthy and whole in my life? And I'm still working on it this year, to be honest, to get really crystallized around it, but it's going to be around something for me this year around relationships. So doing the homework of what is really the root underneath thing that's a constraint to me being healthy. Not like, not the outcome again. It's like, what's the root thing that's not allowing me to thrive?
Yeah.
And in past years, it's been different things. Like last year, it was courageous love was my word. And it was loving myself. Just remembering I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. Like literally, it sounds so cliche, but a practice of remembering that I need to love myself. And I would imagine my 90-year-old self wrapping her arms around me from behind with my little girl self sitting on my lap. And the reason I did that is because my 90-year-old self is the only person I want to work towards. She's the most wise, incredible. She's totally badass. I've imagined her. And she's who I want to work towards. And she loves me unconditionally. And I would imagine, and then my little girl is the one that's been kind of broken or told she's not good enough or all the things. And so I had this practice of literally sitting with the two of them and all year long. And it's really served me. I'll continue that. This year it's around relationships. So it's making sure that it's more specific. It's I'm going to plan a vacation with my husband, just the two of us. I'm going to figure out ways that I can connect deeper with my teenage children. I have very specific things around having a richer relationship with the people in my life.
Yeah.
That's
and
great.
As you mentioned earlier too, creating deeper relationships with more people rather than just a small amount of your tight circle.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to Palm Springs in a week with women I don't know. There's just a small group of us. That's really weird.
Big.
That's weird for me. And I love them. They're all wonderful. They're really different than me. And I think that's important.
That's
to
so
have diversity
awesome.
And people who challenge my way of thinking and are, I think that's really different ages, different stages in life.
And we don't get to do that as adults very often.
Right.
You do that when you're a kid.
Right.
And you're going to camp.
Totally. I know.
You're going to Palm Springs camp.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. I mean, Palm Springs.
Yeah.
We need it here in Portland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing your story and talking so vulnerably and candidly with us. We really appreciate it.
It's my sincere pleasure.
Sadie.
You guys are doing so much good in this world. And I know your backstory. I know what you do. I see you every day. And I go to your acupuncture clinic and I am so glad that you're pulling from all those incredible stories and sharing all that with a broader audience because this world needs it. And you two are remarkable. You're both really remarkable. And I'm so glad more people can be inspired and learn from you. So I'm so happy and honored to be sitting here with you.
Thank you.
Welcome.